And welcome back to the Enneagram Edge, where we explore how your wiring and your personality impacts you as a leader in organizations and on teams and in your business. I am so happy you're here today, and I'm really excited about our topic. We're going to continue diving into the different leadership styles. And specifically today, we're going to talk about the authentic leader. The authentic leader has a really strong type 4 energy. So this week, it's all about the theme of when creative insight turns into withdrawal. So if you're this kind of leader, you're the one who brings originality, emotional truth, and meaning into the room. You're the one who people look to and say, wow, you have an amazing insight. You are the one who people are like, wow, I never thought of anything like that before. You bring what others never think about bringing. And you're also really in touch with values and your truth. That's right. That's why I'm calling you the authentic leader, because for you, what matters is that you're in touch with authenticity. You're the one who can spot what other people miss. You name what other people don't speak about, the unspoken. You're willing to go that extra mile and create authentic relationships, authentic rapport. And you're really in touch with the emotions in a room, and you can sense that emotional undercurrent of a team. And you can bring meaning to moments that other people might not bring any meaning to. So you can actually kind of go beyond, I would say, the ordinary into the extraordinary. You don't just ask, what's the plan? Like many leaders ask. You ask, what does this really mean to the organization, to the team? You ask, what's the truth here? What values are we reinforcing with this decision? So you as an authentic leader, you elevate the entire culture of an organization. You elevate the purpose. You elevate the level of honesty and integrity. And so emotional intelligence is one of your specialties. Creativity is one of your specialties, and you're very visionary. The challenge is what happens when you're under pressure, when you get stressed out. The same gift that you have can turn into a protective pattern. So if your creative insights start not landing with others, you begin pulling back. And this starts a loop. This starts a quiet slide into what I call withdrawal. So here's how it can often play out. So let's say you're in a meeting with a group of people and you have a very good idea, a creative insight. It's not a clever idea. It's something more nuanced. It's something that has perhaps an emotional truth about it. Something that may be even a little bit vulnerable to share. It's kind of on the edge maybe of innovation, and you're taking things to the next level and you're excited about it. So you offer this creative insight. And one of three things happens here. It either gets completely missed, nobody's paying any attention. The conversation just continues to move on like you didn't say anything at all. Or perhaps it gets minimized. Someone responds with something like, yeah, sure, that's a good idea, but what about this? And the energy goes in a completely different direction. Or perhaps it gets repackaged. Someone repeats your idea, but then unintentionally it gets developed into something else, and suddenly it lands from a different place, and it's not what you thought you were contributing. And inside, something begins to happen. It's not really anger that happens, but it's some sort of feeling of sadness, being misunderstood, perhaps a form of shame. And it can be a feeling of, why do I even bother contributing anything at all? And this protective response starts to set in. you begin to retreat. Perhaps you stop offering anything at all. You stop bringing your creative edge to others and to meetings, and you stop naming what's real and what's authentic. People around you may begin interpreting this as, well, she's just a little moody here. Or perhaps he's just not bringing it anymore. Maybe they're being a little dramatic. They're not really a team player. But for the authentic leader, this is not drama. It's self-protection. That's what's really going on. Because the nervous system is saying this: if my contributions don't land anymore, if people don't really see my uniqueness, my gifts, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to withdraw. And this is really understandable, but it's really costly for the organization because your insights make a huge difference in the room. They make a huge difference to your team. What begins to happen is you begin to get trapped into what I'm calling the meaning spiral. So let's talk more about what the meaning spiral really means. Authentic leaders are meaning makers. They don't just experience an event, they interpret that and they make meaning out of it. They actually create stories out of this. So if something doesn't land, they don't just say, oh, well, people were busy, they weren't paying attention. Their mind begins to build meaning around it. They don't value me could be a meaning. They don't get me. They don't understand me. They don't respect me. They don't want me to be part of this team. I don't belong to this team. My creativity isn't welcome here, so I might as well just shut up. Authenticity isn't welcome here. It is not well received. And once these meanings start to spiral, the emotional brain begins to drive the leadership behavior. And so withdrawal occurs. The brain is trying to create cohesiveness, coherence, and safety. It's trying to keep you in a place where you feel good by withdrawing because you don't want other people to reject you and your ideas and your creativity. So here's a really useful distinction to keep in mind if you're an authentic leader. Your emotion is not the problem. Your emotion is actually a strength because it allows you to create these deep connections of authenticity. But the emotion is also information. The problem is when emotion becomes the only type of information. When you take a single moment when you feel rejected and not understood, and you turn it into an identity conclusion. When you feel like, okay, nobody wants me anymore. And so this is what happens to the authentic leader. They can disappear under stress. They can withdraw. One moment they may be fully engaged, creative, open, insightful, and the next day, because something happened, they become less visible, less collaborative, less willing to contribute. It's almost like they begin to disappear into their cocoon. Not because they don't care anymore, but because internally they've decided that it isn't safe to keep offering things. It isn't worthwhile anymore because they're not being valued. They don't feel like they're being seen. So let's look at something important, which is solitude versus withdrawal. Authentic leaders need solitude. They really do. Healthy solitude can fuel creativity. It can fuel clarity. It can fuel getting in touch with what really matters to you and your needs. So solitude really isn't the enemy here. But the question to ask yourself as an authentic leader is your solitude creating clarity or is it creating distance from you and your team? So here's how you can differentiate this a bit. Healthy solitude helps you feel more grounded. It helps you get clarity and insight. It gives you energy. It makes you feel excited because perhaps a new insight has happened. And you feel more connected to yourself after some good solitude. And your ability to reconnect with others increases. So giving yourself space to regulate supports you in this area. However, if you withdraw from a place of stress into a place of disconnection, you replay the moment repeatedly. Stories start going around and around in your brain. You build a story of rejection and not belonging in the organization or the team. You avoid dialogue with other people. You avoid connecting with them and sharing how you really feel because your brain is going into this place of it doesn't matter. And you keep your contributions private, your ideas private. You literally shut down your creativity. You feel more and more separate from your team and more resentful of them, more and more resentful of others. And you get into, honestly, sometimes a victim story of nobody really gets me and nobody really cares about me. So healthy solitude is a bridge back to connection, and a stress withdrawal, when you go into this cocoon of storytelling, this is a wall that you build between you and other people. So what do we do with this? How do you get out of this? I have two really important reset levers that I want to discuss today with you. The first one is to have a healthier connection with your emotions by translating how you're feeling into a request where something can actually be done and changed in the organization. This is very important for an authentic leader. You don't need less emotion, but you need to be able to translate that emotion in a way and communicate that in a way where you can build a better connection. So here's a sentence you can use that can be really helpful. It's really 3 sentences, and I would suggest writing these down. What I'm feeling is, fill in the blank. The story I'm telling myself is, fill in the blank. What I need is, fill in the blank. So let me give you a couple examples. What I'm feeling today is discouraged. The story I'm telling myself is that my ideas don't matter to other people or to the organization. And what I really need is acknowledgement that you've heard me and clarity about whether my ideas fit or what we can do with them or how to bring them forward in the organization. Another example could be what I'm feeling is shut down. Shut down can be an experience for an authentic leader. And the story I'm telling myself is that I'm being dismissed. I'm being rejected is another example here. And what I really need to do here is slow down. What I need to do is slow down for 90 seconds or for a few minutes and make sure that we're in alignment here before we move on, that I've been heard and acknowledged here. So these couple of sentences can take that emotion out of a place of isolation where you're not feeling heard or acknowledged and into a place of leadership. Because what's important here is to remember that this is about you getting out of a place of withdrawal, getting into a place of communication, and asking for what you need to support yourself and understanding and being able to move forward to contribute your best to the organization. So you need to be real and communicate what's going on for you to others in the organization. The second reset lever is about creating what I call relational anchors. So here's the truth. Under stress, you cannot rely on your spontaneity. Your nervous system, when it gets activated, you don't feel any more like reaching out. You don't feel any more like that you want to connect with others. You literally are in this place of wanting to withdraw into your cocoon to protect yourself emotionally. So you need connection points to keep you focused when you may want to withdraw. that will force you to have real, authentic conversations with others about how you're feeling and what you need. So perhaps it's setting up a 15-minute check-in once a week with a key ally, mentor, friend, where you can really express what you need and how you're feeling. Perhaps it's setting up a values alignment touch point with your team so you can discuss how the values are being interpreted and if they're in alignment. Perhaps it's just a simple end of the day voice note exchange with a trusted colleague, or perhaps it's just a walk at lunchtime with a good friend. It's important to find ways that you can create anchors to relationships that you care about, that are predictable, that are contained, that are already scheduled, so that when you want to withdraw, you can find a way of reconnecting and turning this desire to isolate back into connection. I'm going to give you now a quick practice that you can use. I want you to think about one moment recently when you might have felt overlooked, repackaged, not acknowledged, dismissed. And I want you to ask yourself these questions, and perhaps you can journal about them. But what was the emotion that you felt at that time? What were you feeling? What story did you make it mean about yourself? Really get some clarity about the stories, because when you isolate those stories, you're going to feel a lot more empowered. And what's the request that you need to make so that you can feel more supported in that moment? So that your leadership can feel more supported, so you can feel more supported by your team. So here's a reflection for you to think about this week, a journaling prompt that I think that if you write about, you're going to get more clarity as an authentic leader. Where have your contributions been consistently overlooked? And what is the story that you're making this mean? Because when you can see the story, you can choose your next move. You can get out of this place of being hijacked by stress, and you can get into your empowerment as an authentic leader. So, if this episode resonated with you, and maybe because you're an authentic leader, or perhaps you work with somebody who's an authentic leader, please pass on the episode to them. And just remember, your depth, your authenticity is not a liability, it's a strength. It helps the culture, it helps the purpose of an organization move forward. Remember that your emotional truth is a strength when you can harness it in the right direction and ask for what you need, and that your creativity is so needed by the organization and the team. The goal here is not to become less of who you are or less emotional. The goal is to leave from this place of embracing your true qualities, your true strengths, without disappearing, without withdrawing. So if you would like more support here, I have a burnout code guide you can download that will give you some insights on how to move out of stress and burnout into being more empowered. And the link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for your insights. If you have any to offer, I would love to hear from you. And I look forward to seeing you next week or in another episode soon. Take care for now.